Now, a DW investigative team has been working with the China Science Investigation. That's a European journalistic research project which is led by the Dutch platform Follow the Money and a German non-profit newsroom Corrective. For several months, 11 investigative desks in 7 countries have been probing the nature of collaborations between Chinese and European scientists. Now, the team reveals that a lot of the joint research has direct links to the Chinese military.
This is a promotional video for one of China's top universities.
迈入强军征程，吹响建设世界一流军队的前沿号角。
The video's for the National University of Defense Technology, or NUDT, a place that's deeply integrated with the Chinese military. It's all part of what's called military-civil fusion, as practiced by China's ruling Communist Party.
Military-civil fusion, or MCF, is enormously important because it essentially inserts the military into all aspects of the economy and vice versa.
Okay, so why are we talking about this? Well, the NUDT and other Chinese universities like it have been getting help in their mission from right here in Europe. DW and its partners in the China Science Investigation have been investigating links between these institutions and European universities. And we've discovered a huge array of connections, including almost 3,000 scientific publications co-authored by both sides. Some on highly sensitive subjects. German researchers have worked on more than 230 papers with the NUDT.
So this is a big trove of papers. We looked at a lot of them and a lot of them seemed quite innocuous, but we also found some papers that might have a dual use application. So that means they could be used for civilian but also for military purposes. One quite interesting example is a study that looks at how you can track groups of people. And China, of course, is a surveillance state that might have an interest in tracking, for example, a certain ethnic group like the Uyghurs. So you can see this is an interesting example that could have civilian but also more nefarious military applications.
Research on dual-use technologies is meant to be carefully regulated, so we talked to the head of one major funding body.
Ich muss dazu sagen, die DFG fördert ausdrücklich keine militärisch relevante Forschung. Das ist ausgenommen von Forschungsförderung.
Our team took a closer look at dozens of individual scientists who came from China to Germany to work on advanced projects. We're not identifying them. Scientist A is a particle physicist. She spent 2 years at a nuclear physics institute in Italy and a further 3 at universities in Hamburg and Mainz in Germany. Now she's back in China at the China Academy of Engineering Physics. As the CAEP's website vividly shows, it's China's research facility dedicated to nuclear weapons. Scientist B is a chemist who spent 3 years at advanced research institutes in Berlin before moving for a further year to Liverpool in the UK. Now he's a member of the Central Military Commission led by President Xi Jinping. That's China's highest defense body. Scientist C is an expert in hypersonic flight who conducted doctoral research at Munich's Technical University. He now leads multiple research projects funded by China's Central Military Commission, including 2 described as important national defense projects. Several of the scientists we looked at were in Germany thanks to the government-backed Humboldt Foundation. Its Secretary General told us what he's trying to achieve.
We need to build trust. If an autocratic regime goes wild, that cannot be prevented. But what we can do is we can push the limit where competition turns toward physical aggression further and further away. And this, I think, is what we achieve by building trust in this global network of the Humboldt Foundation.
And yet, as our investigation shows, questionable research projects have been happening. So we asked the junior minister responsible why the government isn't preventing this. He pointed to Germany's constitution.
Nun ist es so, dass in Deutschland die Forschungsfreiheit gilt. Das heißt, die Forschungseinrichtungen und Wissenschaftler, Wissenschaftlerinnen entscheiden das selbst. Das können und wollen wir nicht zentral alles aus Berlin machen.
Now, there's no evidence at this point that laws have been broken. But both the European Union and Germany have declared China to be a systemic rival, an authoritarian state that's pushing for a very different kind of world. China expert Didi Kirsten-Tatlow says doing the kind of sensitive scientific research with China that we've uncovered is deeply complacent.
There's a saying, don't bite the hand that feeds you, and I would actually turn it around and say, don't feed the hand that bites you.
The National University of Defense Technology is clear what it's trying to achieve.
为国防军队现代化奉献一生风华。
The question is, do European universities really want to help?
And I'm joined now by Sandra Petersman, who's head of DW's investigative team. Sandra, welcome. If I can start by picking up on the last line of the report that we just heard, do European universities really want to help?
Well, you see, Anya, it's not like European scholars are actively collaborating with their Chinese colleagues to help China build the world's most modern army. I would say it's rather a mixture of complacency, naivety, perhaps at times even ignorance. As one security source here in Germany has told us, you know, scientists are living in their very own bubble. They think about advancing research and science, and that's where it stops. And especially if you look at basic research, I mean, that's conducted without maybe at the beginning a clear aim in mind. It's like blue sky research. And of course, that could perhaps turn later into a military use. Let's take a researcher who is looking into algorithms to coordinate objects. That, at some point, of course, could also be used to coordinate lethal drone swarms. And that is the grey zone we have been addressing with the China science investigation.
Fascinating. So, yeah, let's talk about the China science investigation. It's a research project of 30 journalists in 7 countries. How did it work?
Lots and lots and lots of cups of coffee, hours of digging and reading and writing and receiving encrypted messages, many virtual meetings via secure lines, obviously, because we were 30 in 7 countries, so there's always a risk that something spills. And now a little bit about the methodology. We had an original data set of roughly 350,000 to be specific papers of at least 1 Chinese scientist and 1 European scientist. Of course, that's massive, so we needed to narrow that down, which we did. So we looked at only those Chinese scientists being affiliated with defense universities or institutes affiliated to the People's Liberation Army. Still too much, nearly 3,000. So that we narrowed further down to those papers where we could find a clear line to the National University of Defense Technology. That's the prime academy of the People's Liberation Army. And I'm afraid to say here in Germany alone, we found more than 230, which we looked into.
Is that right? Now, you also looked at individual scientists from China, didn't you? Can you tell us a little bit about your findings?
Yeah, we have been searching the net massively, also extensively in China. And we were looking for Chinese scientists from strategically important areas like artificial intelligence, physics, chemistry, quantum science, who had spent at least 3 years in Germany in the past decade, and who were then brought back to China by the so-called 1,000 Talent Program. That is the best-known government grant program in China. And we found 80 and analyzed 26 of these 80 in particular. And quite strikingly, we found 12 of those had received a fellowship by Germany's Humboldt Foundation, which is government-funded after all. And while we were conducting the research, 2 of them, obviously noticing something, changed their CVs that we could see online and taking off all military references. And I find that quite telling.
Fascinating stuff. Sandra Petersman, head of DW's investigative team, thanks so much.
You're welcome.